Hi, my name is James Morrison, and I'm going to be giving presentation 2, which is based upon chapter 4 in Managing Business Ethics by Linda Trevino and Catherine Nelson. We're going to take those principles and apply them to some of the more famous whistleblower cases. The one in particular that I'm choosing to present here is one by the name of a man named James Alderson. James Alderson in the late 80s and early 90s was hired on at a hospital company to be their financial manager in Montana. And his hospital administrator ended up leaving, and some new company moved in and took over management of the hospitals. And part of their procedure was to submit cost reports to the federal government in order to be reimbursed for hospital expenses through the Medicare and also through Medicaid through local government agencies. And his administrator or new boss, Mr. Eder, asked him basically to keep two sets of financial books. One to submit to the federal government with a higher cost so that they could get reimbursed more, and one more conservative just in case the federal government denied some of their claims, which he knew were false. Mr. Alderson refused to give compliance to this and or to comply with this request, and took a stand against his manager, which took a lot of moral courage. And part of the steps in the managing business ethics is to basically, if you're going to do anything with whistleblowing, you are going to have a lot of courage and strong determination to take these steps. So let's briefly look at what the steps are and the course that James Alderson took to pursue all 7 of those steps. Looking at step 1, we see that it's to notify your immediate manager or supervisor, which Mr. Alderson did with Mr. Eder, although Mr. Eder was the one who requested him to basically do things that were unethical. And him refusing, he basically was fired. In the 7 steps in chapter 4, quitting your job is something that's done last if you can't get anything else resolved. So Mr. Alderson basically had to take step 7 next. So step 1 is that he talked to his manager. Step 2 is that he discussed the issue with his family, and Mr. Alderson really did have to discuss it with his family because he got fired from his job, and they had to pull together and work together to get things accomplished, to find a new job and to support the family while he was working through the issues of being fired for doing something that was right. Step 3 is to take it to the next level. Alderson couldn't really do that in his company, so he had to find another way to do it. And in doing this, he ended up, learning more about filing false claims on behalf of the government and doing things for them hoping that they would step in later. So he did take it to the next level. The next step is to contact your ethics officer in the company, but his company he wasn't working for anymore. So what he did is contact the old hospital administrator who moved on, a man by the name of Mr. Jessup, and went over the issues with him and confirmed with him that they were indeed fraudulent. And he did, get some confirmation and more courage in order to pursue his goals of filing a whistleblowing case on behalf of the government to the old hospital. The next thing was to consider going outside the chain of command. Mr. Alderson had to do that from the beginning because he was fired, and he got himself a private attorney to kind of help move things along. He researched a lot of his own stuff at libraries, and also, contacted the federal government before filing his case, his sealed case in the federal court in Montana. Step 6 is to go outside the company, and again, he did that from the beginning. There was no other options for him because he got fired for taking an ethical stand, and he had the moral courage to stand up for that, even though that meant him getting laid off. And again, step 7 was to leave the company. And that's what happened from the very beginning that Mr. Alderson didn't really have a choice with. So if we look at these 7 steps and apply them to situations that we might face in the future, they'll kind of give us an outline and a layout of things that we need to do and steps we need to take if we ever are in a situation where we need to be a whistleblower. And hopefully the learning and reading about these other people who have followed through with these cases helps to give us the courage to be able to follow them ourselves. So one more time, a brief rundown of the 7 steps is to notify your immediate manager, discuss it with your family. Then, if you have to, take it to the next level, and then contact your company's ethics officer. And then consider going outside the chain of command if you have to go to another manager. And then maybe go outside the company if you have to. And if you can't resolve everything and you can't live with yourself, then you're going to have to leave the company if you want to live up to your moral standards and courage. So I hope you have enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you learned a little more about James Alderson and how he considered following through with the steps of taking the whistleblowing approach and filing a federal government lawsuit in order to fix things that were unethical. Thank you again.